The big studios have found this secret to shooting in a pandemic. It's this little thing called Zoom on Film Threat Reviews. Hi, I'm Alan Ning. I'm Zorianna Kit, and today we review Locked Down, directed by Doug Liman, stars Anne Hathaway and Chiwetel Ejiofor. It's about a couple's attempt at a high-risk, high-stakes jewelry heist at a department store. Now, I will tell you that this comprises the last 45 minutes of this 2-hour movie. And to me, I didn't even read this synopsis before watching the movie. That one caught me by surprise. It's like, oh, this is a heist movie. What did you think of Lockdown?
I actually have a lot of thoughts on Lockdown.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I have a lot of mixed thoughts because, first of all, I do have to say that it is a very original twist on a heist movie because it's set in the time of pandemic. So,
yeah, I should just mention that this is probably the first big studio film that was shot during the pandemic and into the pandemic. Not like it was, it started before it. It has pandemic elements right from the start.
Yes, exactly. So that's what makes it interesting because it's a couple that they're breaking up, but because they're still a couple, they're quarantined, they're under lockdown in their house, so they can't officially break up and move on, and they're waiting for lockdown to be over in order to officially part ways. But they both have two different jobs that somehow intersect and connect. They're in the UK, by the way, too, and they team up to rob the department store Harrods. There's a diamond there that's worth £3 million. So having it set during the pandemic, where streets are bare and they end up being the only two who can actually touch this diamond because you can't have a lot of people and the distancing and all that stuff. It was a interesting twist on an age-old story. So that's a plus.
Okay, so I mentioned it kind of before, but this is a 2-hour movie. There's the first hour and 15 minutes is really just set up about this relationship between Linda and Paxton, and Hathaway, Chiwetel Ejiofor. And and I found it interesting because in that hour and a half, it was basically this couple who are very different but love each other deeply, but are breaking up. He's an ex-con, so he can't find good work, and then she's this high-powered executive who just had to fire her entire staff on Zoom. So this first hour and a half or hour and 15, I found really fascinating. I really liked this dynamic between these two because you don't think of them as together, but then when you see them together, they really work. And then all of a sudden this twist, this heist occurs at the end. And I was like, wow, this and the last 45 minutes, it's a heist movie. Honestly, I liked it. It carried me through, but I can see people really complaining about this fact.
Well, agreed. Because first of all, I do have to say, Chiwetel Ejiofor and Anne Hathaway, full of charisma. I went to see this because of them. And it was really nice to see Chiwetel in a role that he hasn't played before. I mean, at least I've never seen him play someone who lives in a gorgeous house, but has a background of shady criminal, all that stuff. Anyways, it was a different type of role for him. I thought that the heist aspect, because Anne Hathaway, she was in Ocean's 8, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought that most of the film would be centered more around the heist of like planning it and carrying it out. And so when we actually got to the heist part, I was a little bit let down because it wasn't thrilling. It was rather kind of boring and easy. So I was a little disappointed because I thought it was going to be more in that Ocean's 8 kind of way.
Well, the problem is with Ocean's 8 or even the Ocean series, there's a lot of people in Harrods or whatever, the casino. Well, it's during a pandemic, so there's no one, and except for a skeleton security crew.
Yes.
And so it kind of loses a little bit of the danger.
Yes.
And there's a moment in that transition where they're planning the heist. And actually, it's set up as they're not even planning a heist. She kind of introduces it, and there's a moment where the question is, should we really do this? And if they had said no and ended the movie there, I would have been very happy.
Oh.
I mean, because it's they invested me so much in those characters for a very long time at this point.
Yeah,
and I was really enjoying it, and I just felt like, okay, so let's just get through the heist now.
I just sort of felt like when you have the pedigree of Doug Liman, who directed the first Bourne movie and Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, I think I expected that there would be a little more action, or at least something more stylistic, something very stylized, and that was not the case here.
Oh yeah, let me address that. So I've seen 2 Zoom movies, so movies that take place on Zoom, and I've seen countless improv shows done on Zoom, and no one's done it right. And I felt like in this movie, it came close to being done right. What this movie does with Zoom is what every movie should do with Zoom. If you're going to use Zoom, use it in a way that people actually use Zoom. They have meetings, they talk about work, they chit chat once in a while. And that's what they do here. And you get some really amazing cameos showing up on Zoom, and they're at home, they're filming it. Most of the first hour and 15 minutes is just shot in fact, pretty much all of it is shot in this apartment. Even with all the Zoom elements, felt bigger than that actual apartment.
Yes. I mean, we have cameos by Ben Stiller and Mindy
Stephen Merchant.
Yes, Stephen Merchant. Oh, Claes Bang, who we've reviewed so many of his films over the summer, all art movies, and here he is, partaking in a art-ish heist movie.
Yeah. Well, he did an art heist movie, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I was a little disappointing from the standpoint that I expected more was the screenwriter, Stephen Knight. He directed one of my favorite films, and it was called Lock, starring Tom Hardy. And the whole movie is Tom Hardy in a car driving, and he is talking on the phone, but it's just him. Now, that could have been and would have been the perfect pandemic movie if it came out today, because it's just one person. But it came back in 2013, and it was so good and so riveting. And I for a guy who could write that, it was a little bit of a bummer that same sort of riveting aspect was missing from this movie. As interesting and entertaining as this was, it wasn't riveting like I thought it could be.
You know what? I'm going to give them the pandemic benefit of the doubt. I think, it was definitely a skeleton crew that shot in the house. It was probably the director, the DP, and maybe a sound guy. So it was very minimal. And then now you're writing within the constraints of having to do it within a single location. And then you're adding on this heist aspect that's in the pandemic. So, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, you tried to make a big Hollywood movie in a pandemic, and I think, considering all that, I think it was a pretty good job.
Well, yes, because considering most movies take a really long time to make, I'm sure at some point in the middle of the pandemic, a studio said, okay, let's do this. Let's do this, and let's do this now. This did not take a year to put together. They didn't revise or look at things. And it's also very much pandemic, spring 2020. Yeah. This is early stages of pandemic, when people are hoarding toilet paper, which we see, and people are banging on pots and pans as a tribute to essential workers and stuff like that. So it's a very early pandemic, because now we've been, we're coming up on the 1 year mark of this, and I think most people are mentally in a different space.
Let's just bring that up. This movie started less than a year ago. When you think about a script, an original script, those are years in the making. People are they're writing it, they're rewriting it. They have years to hone a script. Again, this was probably started maybe 9-10 months ago, and it's a pretty good job. Like I said, they could have just stopped at the heist. I mean, really.
Also the other thing that I didn't understand the mask wearing rules at Harrods. Also,
I'm sure they tested before they went to work.
Yeah, and then like she enters with a mask, but then she takes it off, and then with some people they're wearing masks, and with others not, and I couldn't quite figure out.
Well, maybe that was a sabotage move. Maybe if he were to get COVID, then she could keep the diamond for herself. So I don't know.
Are you doing the sequel or the alternate universe version of Lockdown, Alan? Anyway, it's perfect for HBO Max. This is an entertaining movie. After you watch it, you will forget about it and move on to something else to watch. But while watching it, I think you'll have a fun time. I mean, I did. I can't speak for everyone. Maybe you'll find those characters grating. I did not. I found them very entertaining, and I loved
that relationship. I love how it played out.
They look like they had fun. They look like those two had so much fun opposite each other. They're both having these crisis meltdowns. They're just going stir crazy in lockdown. They're looking at their lives and they hate their lives. They're panicking about their lives. And it's that early.
And then they steal a diamond.
And then they steal a diamond. Yes, which I think, could be pandemic induced, probably pandemic induced.
Yeah.
Because they're good people.
Yep. All right. Well, you liked it. It's an experiment. It was definitely an experiment. I think you enjoyed it. It's a 7.
Yeah, it's a 7 for me. I did enjoy it. I thought it was entertaining, and I didn't have much expectations, and I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I think it's a film worth watching just to see how Hollywood tackled the pandemic film. Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting to see if there'll be other ones. Because the question is, do we want movies to reflect the state of the world that we're in, or do we want films to be an escape factor and not even address that a pandemic ever happened? And that's sort of the debate, the question. And this movie decided to address it. So thought it was cool. And I think that you liked it probably about the same level as I did, probably for different reasons, but I think you also found it very entertaining. And I think you would see it again. Therefore, I think your barometer is a 7 means you'd see it again. So I think you'd give this one a 7 because you would see it again.
Yeah, I gave it 7.5. I'm giving it the old pandemic half point. This is, I would definitely see it again. I really enjoyed that relationship. I positively tolerated the heist portion of it. Like I said, I could shut it off right before that and be perfectly happy. And there's a level in which I would have to sell the movie for friends, but I don't think that they're going to be disappointed with it either. So
also, the trailer, if you watch the trailer, basically
it's the heist.
It's the heist. I think that's why I thought the film would be more heisty, because the trailer is all about the heist.
Yeah.
But that's essentially the movie. So
I know it's funny because the trailer basically is about the last 45 minutes of this movie. Yes. All right. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment below. It's on HBO Max. That means you're watching it. So yeah, we want to know what you thought. And with that, let's get out of here.